thanks everyone for spending a few minutes with us here today to talk about this new program through FEMA. And I want to thank Peter Morin, who serves as Executive Director of the New Hampshire Funeral Directors Association, for being a part of this conversation. Obviously, we have been through a lot as a state and a country over the last little over a year now throughout this pandemic. We know so many families have been experiencing loss. And I think this particular program, as with so many other efforts, are designed to help make sure that we are supporting families in their time of need, and that we're giving people the help that they deserve through this pandemic and beyond. Clearly, nothing's going to be able to erase the pain and suffering of those who have lost loved ones due to COVID-19 over the last year. But as people continue to grieve, there are certainly some significant ways that we can help make that financial burden more manageable for our families. In the American Rescue Plan, there was significant support for our small businesses, for our workers, for our communities. Also support for FEMA, which has launched a national funeral assistance program to offset the costs that families are experiencing right now. Any New Hampshire family who paid for funeral expenses after January 20th of last year for an individual whose death may have been caused by COVID-19 is eligible to apply for the program. There is up to $9,000 available per funeral reimbursement. I think we can get into a little bit more of the details of the program, how people can access it, and also to answer your questions. So I want to thank Peter Morin for joining us here today. And beyond that, and before we get to Peter, I just want to say anyone who has any further questions about this program or anything else, we really like to hear from you at our congressional office. We're located in Manchester and in Dover. You can call us at 285-4300 or find us online at pappas.house.gov. So please don't hesitate beyond today to reach out with any questions or requests for assistance. So Peter, I'll turn it over to you. Maybe you could introduce yourself, talk about the association, and some of the facets of this new program.
Well, thank you, Congressman Pappas, and thank you very much for asking me to be part of this this webinar. Well, welcome everyone with your participation. Glad you're here. Yes, my name is Peter Morin, and I am the Executive Director of the New Hampshire Funeral Directors Association. I am myself am a licensed New Hampshire funeral director and embalmer, have been for over 20 years. I've been Executive Director for the past over 12 years now. And the association, the New Hampshire Funeral Directors and Embalmers Association, which is our legal name, was formed back in 1900. And of course, a lot has happened in that time. And no, I haven't been involved in all that time, but I'm here during those last 12 years. The association not only represents funeral service and our members here in New Hampshire, but we also represent the families that we serve. The association in the last 12 years has done a great deal in terms of consumer legislation, consumer protection legislation, in terms of pre-need funeral contracts and that sort of thing. We also are very involved nationally, and that's where I first became involved with Representative Pappas with the BRAVE Act and the passage of that Veterans Burial Benefit Bill. So we're pretty involved in a lot of different things. And for a small state and a small association, I believe that we're very effective, and we try to do the best we can to represent the citizens here in New Hampshire. So that's pretty much as far as the association and myself. And I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions about this program. To just touch base with what the congressman started with as far as the FEMA Funeral Assistance Program, this is enormous. This is a great effort to help people across the United States who have lost a loved one due to COVID-19 in the past year, to really help relieve that financial burden and to try to make the process as easier for them. And so I will turn this back to the congressman.
Well, thanks. Maybe one of the first questions people might have if they're looking for information is, can they do this online, or do they have to call the telephone number? We know that when this was opened up, we had 1 million calls in the first day, and a lot of people had trouble getting through. So how can people reach out to apply for this assistance?
That's an excellent question. The first answer is no, you cannot do it online. You can go and look, you can get information on the FEMA funeral assistance page. Has a tremendous amount of information there, brings you through all the questions that you might have in terms of applying. Applications can only be done through their number for applications. It's done in person with a member of their staff. One of their representatives will guide you through it, take the necessary information to set up an account for you to get this process started. So it can only be done on through the phones and with the FEMA representative.
It looks like we have a question in the chat about someone who lost a brother, and I'm really sorry for your loss, in Massachusetts. She dealt with a Massachusetts funeral home. Is that eligible? And the answer is this is not a New Hampshire specific program, even though I referenced I think Granite Staters in my opening comments. This is a national program that all of our families are eligible to apply for assistance through. Did I get that right, Peter?
Yes, you did, Congressman. It as long as if the individual died within the United States, within one of our United States territories or the District of Columbia, then they would be eligible to whether it's they would be eligible for this program. Mm-hmm. Yeah, provided.
Now, can you talk?
Sorry,
Yep.
No, good. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, if you weren't finished, feel free to offer any last comments there. But one question I was thinking about was about how funeral homes can assist families. I'm just wondering if funeral homes might be able to either help families apply or to apply on their behalf. Can you provide any clarity there?
Yes, that's another very good question. No, funeral homes can assist you in gathering the necessary information that you're going to need. Among them will be a death certificate, which indicates that COVID-19 was either the cause or an underlying cause of the person's death. The statement of goods and services, which you would have signed for that, the contract, if you will. They cannot apply on your behalf. The application can only be done by the person who actually made the payment and paid for the funeral services. So it's limited to that individual. As I said, they can assist you in gathering the information that you're going to need to make the application, and that the payment would be made directly to the person, the applicant themselves. So
It looks like we have another question here in the chat, also about someone who's lost someone who lost their dad, and we're really sorry for your loss. Appears he lived in New Jersey, but she's a New Hampshire resident, and so yes, this is also that question about whether someone lives in another state, but this is in fact a national program, and regardless of the circumstances of where people lived or where the funeral home was located, you are eligible. And I'm just dropping into the chat right now just the direct information on the phone number and the particulars on where people can go to reach that hotline, what hours it's in service for, so people have a little bit more information on what to reach out to. Now, what type of expenses, Peter, are covered by the program? There's a lot involved when you're paying respects and honoring a loved one with a funeral service. What aspects of that are eligible for the FEMA reimbursement?
well, there's actually a great deal that is eligible, and I've got a list here because it is quite extensive. It could be the cost of a casket, could be the cost of burial services or cremation, could be a casket or an urn. I think I mentioned the casket, up to 2 death certificates, the burial space itself in a cemetery, the actual cost of the interment or the cremation. They'll also allow reimbursement for 2 individuals to travel in order to identify the deceased. So there's a number of things like that. It's a rather extensive list. Yeah.
And I know we've received questions about what sort of documentation you need to provide to access these funds. For some, COVID may be listed as a contributing factor on a death certificate. Do you need that designation in order to receive these funds?
Yes, yes, you do. That's a critical point. Is that either the cause of death, the primary cause of death, is COVID-19, or a subsequent cause of death, if it contributed in any way, but it must be on the death certificate. Now, if it isn't, and you believe that your loved one did die from COVID-19 or related circumstances, then you could possibly have that death certificate amended. That's not an easy process. It'd be a matter of going to the physician who certified the cause of death, but it is necessary that that is on the death certificate. That's a primary requirement for this. Yeah.
Okay. And Marilyn asks about, she paid for funeral expenses out of pocket, didn't have insurance. Does she qualify for the program?
Absolutely, absolutely. You would need receipts, which you would have received from the funeral home. If you paid by check or credit card, even the documentation, the receipts would be a requirement that they would for documentation. But yes, absolutely. The only types of insurance that could be used to pay for the funeral expenses is it would be like a whole life policy, a life insurance policy. If it is a funeral related policy, let's say you had a mortuary trust or you had an insurance policy specifically to cover a prearranged funeral contract, then no, that would not be eligible for reimbursement. But a whole life policy would be. But any other form of payment, cash, check, credit card, yes, absolutely. As long as you can document that you paid for it.
And do how limited the program is? Will the money run out at some point in time? Is there a date certain that people have to apply for these funds by?
No, no, there is no deadline. And that's what I like to reassure families that reach out to me, that I know that the FEMA is very busy, that a lot of people applying, but to be patient, that this process is in place and it's going on. There is no deadline. Um, that I think they've allowed for ample amount of funding for this, and I would not see it be an issue at all. So I would not worry about that.
Terrific. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about just what the last year has been for your members, for the funeral homes around New Hampshire, and the families that they work with. Obviously, this is really unprecedented, and what kind of strain has this put on our families who are struggling to keep people safe, and also make sure that they're doing everything possible to honor their loved ones.
Well, it's been an incredible strain on the families and also on funeral service. I think that one of the biggest impacts that families have had is the inability to be able to grieve and mourn in a way that we're typically accustomed to. And not having that, often people couldn't be in the hospital with their loved one that he died, or even a nursing home because of the restrictions and protocols in place. So this put an enormous burden on the families, and this inability to mourn in a way that we traditionally have. I think we often aren't aware of the importance of grieving a loss and are allowing ourselves to grieve, and it takes time, and it's going to takes a process, and not being able to do that and not being able to have the support of family because family wasn't able to travel, or that they were restricted by the numbers that they could have at a service, and also because the community at large was not able to participate. And often that's a tremendous source of support for grieving families and individuals. And so it's had an enormous impact. I suspect, and I've heard some professionals talk about it, that there may be some lasting effects to this. That people have really there's going to be issues with what we refer to as unresolved grief, and that they just haven't had the chance to grieve in a supportive manner and have the help that they need. So yeah, it's been a tough time for everyone, and particularly those anyone who lost someone during this pandemic, whether it was through COVID or other through the other circumstances, other causes, it was a very, very difficult time. And I'm hoping that, things will ease back and we'll be getting to normalize more and more and keep everyone safe. So, I'm optimistic, and we're going to, as far as the funeral homes in New Hampshire, we've followed our protocols to keep everyone safe, and we'll be gradually, expanding those very carefully to allow more capacity for services and more of the community involvement and larger family groups. So, yeah, it's been an unusually difficult situation, something we've never encountered before on this scale.
Well, we hope we never encounter it again, and we certainly hope that things continue to improve as people get their vaccinations. We continue to heed the public health guidance that New Hampshire can get through this. But we do want to make sure we're providing support for families who have experienced loss, and that's why this program is so important. I will tell you all the hotline number just so you have it. I did drop the information in the chat, but maybe everyone can't see it. So the hotline opened up on April 12th. It is open for applications now. It's open Monday through Friday, 9 to 9 Eastern time. So it gives you a 12-hour window during weekdays. And the number is 844-684-6333. That's 844-684-6333. And we'll make sure we get that information up on our website. So if people have any additional questions about that, we certainly can assist with it. Colin, do we have any further questions before we close this session?
That is all I'm seeing in both the Q&A and in the chat. So I think we've come to the end of the questions. Yeah.
All right, Peter, anything else you'd like to offer?
I think, Congressman, I just reiterate what you had said to reassure people that this is a national program. And if you have any questions, you can certainly go to you can certainly contact me, like as well as the Congressman's office. I'll be happy to assist you and, maybe guide you where you might need some help. That this, as I said, this is a national program. If you have questions, don't be afraid to ask them. And if you do get through and start the application process with FEMA, I know they'll be very helpful. Their representatives are really, their goal is to make this work successfully for every family and to take the time that's necessary to guide you through. They're not going to rush you. They're not going to push things through, or they're going to be of absolute of assistance to you all. So,
and I think I was reading that an average call takes about 20 minutes to gather the information on the line with FEMA. So, having the right information is important, but it's not that long of a process to get through and file your application.
Mm-hmm. And I'd also mention, reach out to the funeral home that helped your family, in caring for your loved one. They'll be happy to help you gather this information. If you need another copy of the statement of goods and services of the contract, if you need help getting more death certificates, reach out to them and ask them for help. And I'm sure that they will be more than happy to do that. And keep in mind that they may be busy serving other families, so it may not happen overnight. But I know they'll be happy to assist you in that. So, but don't be afraid to ask questions and gather the necessary information before you call FEMA. I think that's going to be a very important part of it, is to have, because on the FEMA site, it has a list of exactly what you're going to need, and basically a death certificate with the cause of death listing COVID as an underlying cause or the cause, the contract that you signed, and that the person applying for this, whoever it is, has to be the person that actually signed that contract and paid for the services. They're very, very particular things that have to be met. And then you would have any receipts related to it other than those from the funeral home. And maybe there'll be information, of course, the deceased person's name, their social security number, that sort of thing. Likewise, your own name, your social security number, and any information like that will be critical to having this move smoothly forward.
Well, there are a lot of ins and outs to this process, but Peter, we appreciate your time at helping folks in New Hampshire understand a little bit more about it. And we'll continue to try to spread the word. I'm sure your association will as well. And once again, we encourage folks to reach out to our office if you have any further questions here or really anything COVID related or any assistance we might be able to provide. Again, our number is 285-4300. Hopefully you're all doing well and staying safe. We're thinking of New Hampshire families that have been going through a tough time right now, and we want to do all we can to assist. So everybody have a great rest of the week, and we hope to see you again soon.